Now about Rakesh Sharma. If you have read the invitation, you must have known something about him. I know him since I was in ZTV, and I had asked him to do a series on our cinema legends. So he made about 6-episode documentary on Ashok Kumar and on Shami Kapoor and on Raj Kapoor and on various, many other actors. So I have known him from that period and so on. Then he went off on his own and I left Z and so on. And he is a fantastic documentary maker. I have seen very few people who have a keen eye for documentaries. I mean, we have Anand Patwardhan, yes, everybody knows about him, and Rakesh, of course. Very few of filmmakers I have noticed who venture into documentaries. We used to have Mr. Sukhdev in late 60s and early 70s. You may not remember him. I think he was perhaps the best documentary maker ever in this country. Documentary as an art form is incredible. It's incredible, and it's not simple. It's not just a matter of shooting footage and then just going into editing studio and just putting it all together. No. The insight, the vision, the understanding of the issue in the first place, it's all quite, in fact, I have myself, I tried and I found, I can't do it. So now, no more wasting time, and I don't want to stand between you and the film, which is the main thing that we are here for. And after the film is over, Rakesh will be here with us, and you are all welcome to ask him any questions regarding the film and how he made it and whatever that you're going to see in the film. And before we go any further, just my thanks to Rashri because she took the initiative. She is our executive committee member in charge of events in this organization, and she is the one who got this idea of a documentary event.
ऐसा लगता है हमारी जीत हो गई, बस और कुछ कहना हम नहीं चाहते।
जय रंजोर मियाँ चोर, जय रंजोर मियाँ चोर,
मतलब
मियाँ की माँ चुनाव।
सीनियर में हूँ और मेरा नाम है इजाज और मेरी प्लेन है अब जो चमनपुरा में जलाया था ना, अब यहाँ आके मैं सबको मारा था ना। औरत लोग को नंगा नंगा कर के खाता था।
आपने देखा था?
हाँ।
क्या देखा था?
मारा था, उन लोग को तलवार से मारा था, मेरे दादा को मारा था, मेरी चाची को मारा था, और है ना मेरे दादा को बचाने गए ना तो मेरे पापा की 2 उंगली कर दी।
I mean, there were many close shaves, but I don't talk too much about it because it's part of the course when you decide to make a film like this. So, you decide that you're going to get into an arena like that, and you take those risks, and those are there are sort of risks with knowledge that you're taking. So there were times when we were surrounded by mobs. The first sequence where the Titans are, where the Titans are superimposed on a shattered windscreen. That was of course my own car. We were being stoned. So there were many such instances, but we were never in some serious danger. I've been shooting in strife-torn kind of areas for a long time, so I know how to navigate my way through tricky situations, and I think that ability helps.
Did you get any help from the police or any protection?
No.
Not at all. You didn't ask for it, or they didn't give?
No, I didn't ask for it, and in fact, I never wanted it. We were being tailed constantly by the police, so I wanted to shake them off all the time.
In fact, it was never seen that the camera is also seen by anyone. I mean, the cameras were not visible to anybody. Because
of course, the cameras were visible. I was shooting with two cameras.
None of the people whom you were interviewing are looking at the camera. It was very strange, right?
No, in fact,
people would keep on looking at the camera. None of them were looking at it. Were the cameras visible to the audience?
Of course they were. I'm shooting with two cameras, and those who are familiar with cameras, at that point we had a PD-150, which is not exactly an innocuous camera. And then I had a PDX-100, which is also not innocuous. Much depends on the style of shooting. I had decided that I was never going to go in with a crew. So there were only two people. Me, I do one camera, and my cameraman who was on the PD-150. PDX-100 is a palm quarter. So I was always holding it in the palm. And normally in the two camera situation, the second camera is with me there because he's doing cutaways and the group shots and so on. But people are looking at me because I'm the interviewer. And since I'm sitting off the main camera axis, I'm shooting. Maybe they're not looking directly at the camera because they're directly looking at me. And also as a style of shooting, when I'm actually doing my camera and talking to people, I don't look at my viewfinder because I maintain eye contact. I think that's really key in documentary interviews, that you listen and that you respond, not with your camera but with yourself, yourself as a person. So I think that is what comes across as being them not being aware of the camera, or them speaking to me spontaneously, or being able to catch various kinds of little shadows and little things that happen on people's faces. But that's also because I'm shooting with multiple cameras. I had access to, since a lot of lawyers are friends of mine, I had access to all the FIRs that have been filed, all the investigation reports that have been filed. So even before I landed up on location, I was very well aware of the facts. But in terms of classical documentary research, where you go spend time with the subject and all of that I didn't do for a very deliberate reason. Because I feel that the first time you speak to somebody, the first conversation, that's actually the most spontaneous conversation. And as documentary filmmakers, if we keep going back to people and familiarize ourselves and say that we are becoming a part of their families and so on, and then we will shoot. By the time you shoot with them, they already start assuming that you know everything. So they start speaking in telegraphies and shortcuts, which obviously your audience is not aware of. So as a filmmaker sitting on that location, I get their story, but I'm not able to communicate it because it is not part of the footage. So I believe in recording the first conversation itself. So every time I went to say a Naroda party or Gulbarga, I never even fixed up interviews saying I'm coming on XYZ date. I would just go, I would collide with somebody, I would sit down and talk. But I was very well prepared for the collisions because anybody who I met, as soon as he said his name, I would immediately place him saying, this is Imtiaz and this has happened to him and he's filed this case and this is the progress, because all that was thoroughly researched. So all the research was in my head completely. Whenever I collided with somebody, I knew exactly where to place them, including say Bhavani's daughters. I mean, I was just idly shooting, they said, what are you doing? I said, I'm shooting. They said, have a cup of tea. I said, yes, of course. I sat down, realized they're Bhavani's daughters, and we started talking. So nothing was fixed, it was totally spontaneous.
लेकिन उन लोगों ने चारों तरफ से घेरा था ट्रेन को। जो हमने मीडिया वालों ने जो छापा है वो पढ़ा है, उसमें था कि इन लोगों की औरतें भी थी। जो गोधरा में हुआ, जो लड़कियों को काटा गया, जिन 60 लड़कियों की बात सुनने में आई कि उनको उठा के ले गए, तो लड़कियां कहाँ हैं आज? कौन पूछ रहा है? कोई नहीं पूछ रहा। जो भी होता है नरोड़ा पाटिया का ही पूछता है। आखिर नरोड़ा पाटिया में हुआ क्या है, कोई बता सकता है कि क्या हुआ है?
आप बताइए क्या हुआ।
नरोड़ा पाटिया में कुछ नहीं हुआ है, और जो हुआ है सभी झूठ कहा गया है, लेकिन जो गोधरा में हुआ ना वो हकीकत है।
But you must have shot a whole lot of footage anyway.
Yes.
It's obvious.
Yes, yes. I shot for almost 18 months.
18 months.
Yes.
So how did you get the structure, the way it's structured? I can imagine, the effort and the time and energy
It was
going through all the footage and getting some kind of a sense of the whole thing.
I really don't know how to explain it. Again, when I'm editing, I don't edit. I'm editing now a follow-up film that I've been shooting for 6 years
Yeah.
in Gujarat. So I shoot a lot. I keep editing parallelly. So I keep editing my sequences a little bit here and there. So material is sort of semi-rough edited. And I keep tinkering with the structure.
Yeah.
But in the case of Final Solution, I was filming for 18 months, but the last 8 months of that filming, I was also editing simultaneously. Then 6 months was just hardcore editing, at the end of those 18 months. So for a 14-month period, literally I was editing. For the first 10 or 11 months, I didn't know what the film was going to look like. At the end of month 11, I took a break for 10 days and came back to it. And the structure just evolved and it worked out. All I then needed to do was just change few sequences up and down, chop some sequence here and some sequence there. But I keep working in parts and some of the parts sort of fall together in a whole. That's also because I think at the back of the head there is this clarity about where I'm coming from, what I want to say, why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I think with that clarity, that thread is underlying the entire rough edit anyway.
Yeah, it appears some kind of a very subconscious sort of intuition or intuitive effort. You know it, but maybe you're not putting it out there. This is my structure.
That's right.
It's not on paper.
That's right.
It's somewhere happening while
shooting.
Yeah, it's a very visual documentary.
Yeah.
I mean, without any commentary at all, any voice at all. And
Again, a deliberate choice.
And there's no interpretation of any kind or taking any sides.
Yeah.
And yet, visually, it speaks for itself completely. And the whole message is complete without any interpretation. It's amazing. It's amazing.
The censor board banned the film to begin with. I applied for certification, and first they won't actually even schedule the film for certification. I kept getting notices of various kinds. The first set of notices I got was, you showed the film at film festivals abroad.
Okay.
How did you? And I said, take a hike. Censor certification is required for screenings in India, not abroad. Then the next set of notices I got from the censor board was, you went abroad for film festivals, how did you manage the foreign exchange? So I politely wrote back to them saying, if it's a FERA violation, let the government of India and DRI get behind me. CBFC is not concerned with it. Finally, they slotted the film, and it was very curious. I was screening the film at a festival in Bangalore, a protest festival in Bangalore. And in the middle of that screening, in the middle of my Q&A, I got a call from the censor board saying we banned the film. And when I got the final sort of ruling from the censor board, it claimed all sorts of things like my film was an assault on constitutional values, on values like secularism, that it was going to promote enmity among people, that it was unfit for exhibition altogether. So I decided to fight it out, and unlike other friends of mine like Anand Patwardhan, who's always taken the legal route to fight it out, I decided that I was not going to take that route for two reasons. I think it serves the powers that be when you decide to go to courts, because during that period of 2 years, 2.5 years, the film stands buried. It's only underground screenings and some friendly screenings that happen. And that's what they want. They want to bury the film at that point. By the time they lift the ban, the film is no longer timely. So I decided to fight it at two levels, I said. One was, as soon as the film was banned, I went to Sony and placed an order for 20,000 copies. And I launched a campaign called Pirate and Circulate, where you were getting a copy of the film if you promised to pirate and make 5 copies and circulate it further. So my thing was, you want to ban my film, I'm going to be in your face, try and stop me. And the second was to keep up the pressure on the government of India at that point. I actually cited a part of the Cinematograph Act, which empowers the government of India to overrule the censor board. That particular provision hasn't been invoked in the last 60 years. But the government was between a rock and a hard place, because I was able to demonstrate that the censor board was very partisan. And that's also an interesting story. when the screening was slotted, I knew that this was going to happen. That the censor board was actually not going to play fair. So 2 journalists, one from the Telegraph and one from Midday, and 2 of my assistants were actually part of the screening. They were standing right outside the venue. And they kept records of who went in, for how many minutes, came out, spoke on the cell phone, went to the loo, came back 16 minutes later, and all of that. So in the records, which were then published next day, both in the Telegraph and in the Midday, and both these journalists did a very good job. It turned out that that cut that I had given for certification was about 3 hours and 45 minutes. But to look at the entire film, then to have a debate among the members, then to draft a ruling, the censor board took 3 hours. So we were able to demonstrate that they never saw the film. And since it was documented so well, the Ministry of I&B, couldn't actually say no to me. So I kept saying, you need to invoke this provision. And they said, we cannot invoke this provision. At best, we can instruct the censor board to relook at your film. And I said, I'm not going to apply for recertification because I will actually now use the consumer law. I do not want to use the Cinematograph Act. They rendered a service to me and the service was deficient. So under the Consumer Protection Act, I will proceed against Government of India and the censor board. So Anupam got wind of it and he slotted a screening on his own. I never reapplied for it. And in that screening, the film was cleared without a single cut. Of course, it's been shown very widely abroad, on television and even in theatre releases, in a limited way. In India, of course, everybody knows that we don't have a tradition for theatrical release for documentaries. Some amount of releases have happened in the last couple of years, for a week here and there, or through the initiative that just happened for 6 documentaries. Theatrical release hasn't been a realistic possibility here. But in terms of television channels, it's a peculiar story. I knew that the state-run Doordarshan is never going to show the film. Till I picked up a national award for it, and now I'm after them because as a part of the policy, national award-winning films have to be shown on Doordarshan. So if they deny it to me, then obviously I'll take the legal route and get the High Court to give me a order to force DD to show the film. The other channels, and I will not like to name the channels, but practically every prominent news channel in the country, and these are all friends of mine in all these channels who are running these channels or heading these channels. I've offered it free to them for 4 years running, but nobody has taken the film.
NDTV used to have a documentary platform.
I've offered it to NDTV, I've offered it to CNN. I said I wouldn't name them. I've offered it to everybody free. Every February, like clockwork, I offer it to them, saying the anniversary is around the corner, you're free to use the film. I do not need to be paid for it. Because I do not want them to have the fig leaf of being able to say to me that you asked for 5 lakhs, we can give it to you.
So why did they say no? Why did they not show?
Exactly for the same reasons why Modi is the media darling at the moment, because all these channels are corporate owned. CNN, IBN, of course we know Rajdeep is the face, but we don't know about, a lot of people might know about the fact that Mukesh Ambani is now the de facto owner of the channel. So there are a lot of business interests that are actually governing what goes on these television channels. And looking at the sweetheart deals that Modi has been able to offer all his friends like the Adanis or the deal that went to the Nano, with those kind of sweetheart deals, everybody wants these kind of deals if Modi becomes comes into power at some point. So nobody would like to piss him off. It's as simple as that.
So how do you see the future of documentary in this country? Looking at the scene that you're describing,
I think,
there may be some people here who might like to try their hand at documentary. So what future exists there?
Kamlesh, I think it's a fantastic future because, I'm giving you one side of the story, which is that no theatrical release and, television hasn't shown the film. But the other side is that this film has circulated extremely widely.
Yeah.
People have uploaded it in call center servers, it's on all IIT servers, IIM servers. The film just took on a life of its own and it has circulated extremely widely. I've made versions of the film. There's a Kannada version and I actually gave it to a few people saying make a Kannada version, and 4 years later they got back to me saying we have circulated 12,000 copies of the film in Karnataka. I made a Gujarati version personally. And I've been able to hold 60-70 public screenings in Gujarat. Okay, I've circulated a few thousand VCDs in Gujarat. So the film circulates, the film is seen, the film is on YouTube, it was on MySpace, it was on Google Video, it continues to be available. Even as we speak, this month, there have been 20 screenings of the film across university campuses in the US in response to Modi's visit to Wharton, that was being planned. So the groups that oppose that visit have actually taken up the film and they're screening it all across. So the film continues to travel, it has a life of its own. All I've done is that as a filmmaker, I've decided that my main concern is circulation, not revenue recovery. And the moment I decided that, the revenue recovery also happened. The more people pirated the film, the greater the number of DVDs that sold. So I can't explain that contradiction, but that's how it happened.
When you make such films, what is there in your mind going on? Because it's a mirror of life.
Yes.
Which I have been seeing since my childhood.
Yes.
It never changes. With that time, only few things change. Otherwise, life is same. So when you make such truthful films, what is the idea in your mind behind all these things?
Actually, I don't have any grand or lofty ideas when I decide to do work of the kind that I'm doing even now. The sole reason why I made this film was because I couldn't keep quiet. I could not just sit at home and keep quiet. And last time it happened, as I said, in 92-93, when I could not sit home quietly, I went and volunteered in a relief camp and did all sorts of work. Right from getting homes constructed to getting Red Cross kind of relief, immediate medicines and milk, and taking people to hospitals or getting their homes reconstructed. This time I decided that I can't sit quiet and I must use my film skills as a filmmaker. So that's the only reason why I made the film, and I would say that's why I'm still following up on it, because I did this film. I shot this in 2002 and 2003. From 2006, I've resumed filming, after finishing this film. And I've now been filming for the last 6 years. I finished filming in December of 2012 with Modi's re-election. Because I feel that what has unfolded in the last 10 years in Gujarat is extremely important to document, because it is in many ways going to define polity of this particular country. And again, the sole reason is because I just can't sit quiet and see what's happening. So that's the only reason why I go out and put myself in these situations and shoot. See, I think that the solution does not lie in a messiah who's going to rise and show us a light. I think it lies within all of us. The nature and degree of that solution is for you to decide. How much do you want to do about it? So, some people can just talk to their own immediate family. Some people can talk to their wealthy NRI cousins who donate to VHP and Bajrang Dal and all of that in America, or donate to a Tablighi Jamaat or other communal organizations, or you talk to people within your housing society, or you actually volunteer your time with people who have suffered either in Gujarat or in other spaces, or in this kind of violence in say the Mumbai blasts and so on. So the nature and degree of your intervention is yours to decide, but the solution resides within all of us. Sorry?
Is there any solution? What do you decide?
That's the solution I'm talking to you about. That it is actually yours to decide कि आप कितना करना चाहेंगे इसके बारे में, आप किस हद तक करना चाहेंगे. जिस हद तक भी करेंगे वो अच्छा है, पर खामोश रहेंगे तो आप इसको बढ़ावा देंगे, और मायूस घर पे बैठ के खामोश रहेंगे तो और बढ़ावा देंगे. As a filmmaker, this was a very hard call that I took. There were many other friends who were very critical, including filmmaker friends, senior documentary filmmaker friends, because they felt that the film was not offering a ray of hope. And I said, I will be damned if I have a candlelight vigil at the end of the film, or people singing Hum Honge Kamyab, because that's the way most documentaries try to offer you a ray of hope. And as audiences, you feel somebody is doing something about it, I now need to go back home and chill. I will not do anything of the kind. In fact, the only time you see brutal images of blood and gore are at the end of the film in that song. Throughout the film, you never see any blood and gore. And I reinforce some faces that you've seen in the film, so that when you leave the film, these are faces and images in your head, and you are disturbed by the questions and you keep thinking about the answers yourself, because that's where the solutions lie. People thinking it through and doing something about it.
The faces are so eloquent, they speak so well without saying so much, they say so much.
How do you get people to talk to you? Because this is obviously a very sensitive topic. And although people may have a lot of stories to tell, they'll get scared of the camera. They won't. They'll probably speak to you off the record. And I also wanted to know how you shot that particular riot sequence where the police are firing. Did you take permissions? Were they easy to come by?
But I've shot similar sequences later and earlier, and you never take permissions. I mean, if you go to take permission, you're immediately going to be stopped and arrested probably, or your camera is going to be confiscated. So you just shoot, and you shoot, and if you see, somebody coming to arrest you, you take out the tape, put it in your pocket, and put a blank tape in the camera, so they can confiscate that. So that apart.
That's a good tip for a documentary maker.
Absolutely. I mean, always carry blank tapes.
Blank tape in the camera.
Or something with rubbish footage that you can just hand over and walk away with your original footage. But in terms of your other question, people speaking to me, and I think everybody wants to talk. And I say this not just as a documentary filmmaker, but as somebody who's seen serious instances of grief and violence and the aftermath. The Sikh riots of 1984 again. I was a university student, and I was in Delhi, and I volunteered in some of the relief camps at that point. But then I talked about 92, 93 and in Gujarat. People want to talk. They want to talk to somebody who they know is going to listen. They are not interested in talking to somebody who's looking for that soundbite for tonight's story or for tomorrow morning's newspaper article, because that's something they couldn't care less about. But they want to talk, they want to be able to relate to somebody who they're talking to. And I think that's all I do. When I'm sitting and talking to them, I'm actually listening, I'm actually responding. As I said, the way I shoot, the way I situate myself in that context, all those are very deliberate decisions that I take. I never carry any lights or portable reflectors. There's not a tripod. We never carry a tripod. For 2 sequences we use tripods in interview situations, and of course in rallies we use tripods. But for people who, and the interview situations where I've used these tripods are with the right wing, the people sitting on the swing and all of that. One camera is handheld and one is on a tripod. Otherwise there are no tripods. I shoot with a palm corder. It's extremely. It's just a little bigger than this. Okay, so it's not intimidating at any level. When I'm shooting, I'm not ever communicating with the cameraman. We don't talk film lingo. We don't say roll, cut, action. Hang on 1 minute. Have you got the frame? The light is not good. We never talk like that. It's all I think it's sacrilege to go into a context where you invade somebody's home and take over and start throwing your weight around, thinking that your technique is actually far more important or your concerns are far more important than their lives. So we never speak. And the cameraman that I'm shooting with, there's a perfect sort of understanding because we've been working for so long. We never shoot the same frame. We are able to look at each other and communicate that I'm shooting the close-up and he has to be on mid, or he sees me zooming in, so he zooms out to something else. So the way we situate ourselves in that context also is so much aimed at putting people at ease, and the fact that we are actually there to listen. There are times when I don't shoot. I just sit in people's homes and just do not shoot. There are days when I've gone to meet somebody and I said, today we will not roll at all. So those are all things that you do. As you go along, you respond to the context, you respond to the vibe, you respond to the person, and you let that take over. And people talk. Everybody wants to talk. Everybody has a story they want to share. I had decided that I will recover my money outside India. And there are several revenue streams, so to say. Since you asked me that pointed question, let me also decode it, answer it like that. I got lucky that I picked up a lot of money in cash prizes at film festivals. I picked up many awards. So, just that not just recovered the cost of the film, but practically gave me, double what I had spent, just the award monies. Then unlike most Indian filmmakers, I'm not happy with the honor of being screened at a film festival. I charge a screening fee. Because I tell them that, if you charge box office at the film festival, you need to pay me a screening fee. If you're paying any other European filmmaker or an American filmmaker, they pay everybody else. So I don't see why I should not get paid. If they plead that they are a poor film festival, I say, if there's a box office ticket, then I will charge 50% of the box office collections for that particular screening. They may not agree to it, they may agree to 40%, but I insist because I'm very clear that I'm an independent filmmaker and I need this to sustain my filmmaking. So that's another kind of, screening fee becomes another kind of revenue stream where I don't pick up awards. Then I do a lot of lecture tours and university screenings. So again, for these tours, I get paid a screening fee for screening my film, and I get paid an honorarium for doing a Q&A and delivering a lecture. So for this film, in the first 2 years, I must have done about 120, 130 campus screenings across the US and Europe. So everything keeps adding up. I mean, it sounds very little. Somewhere I'm charging $200, somewhere I'm charging $500. But over a period, it keeps adding up. And it adds up to a tidy enough sum for you to be able to do your next film simultaneously. And once you're in the loop, then you can keep sustaining yourself. For instance, BBC has a very prestigious slot called Storyville. So Storyville picked up the film. So that itself actually gave me money to sustain my filmmaking for the next 5 years. There's fundamentalism of various kinds operating in the country. There is, of course, the majority fundamentalism that we see here. There is minority fundamentalism of various shades that is also operating, which is also tied up, completely with the kind of political construct that we live in. Our politics for the last 20 odd years, or ever since the late 80s, early 90s, has grown more and more towards identity politics. So caste-based politics and region-based politics and so on. It has seen a collapse of national parties and rise of regional parties to a degree that the Congress and the BJP today are both large regional parties. There is no longer a national party anymore. So we are living in very fascinating and interesting times where our mainstream politics is completely defined by identity constructs, and any dissent or any dissatisfaction with mainstream polity is defined by more fundamentalist kind of identity politics. So whether we look at PFI in Kerala, the way that's rising, or AUDF in Assam and the way they are rising, or in the case of Malegaon, which I've documented, for the first time a serving imam, a mufti, contested elections for the Legislative Assembly, and he's now the MLA. So you have different manifestations of these identity constructs that are coming across. And I say we are living in interesting times, not just in India, but globally so, because what has happened over the last 25-30 years is that most dominant political formulations worldwide speak the same language. There is nobody who's agitating for better lives for people. I mean, today it is difficult to distinguish between, say, the core agendas for Tories and Labour in the UK, or between Democrats and Republicans in the US, or between the BJP and Congress here. You change them, the same polity, the same political economy, the same policies will continue. So it's not as if they're agitating for something radically different from each other. You can't really separate the two of them. So when core or dominant political streams start speaking the same language, the only counter to that is these kind of identity constructs that come up. Because people's aspirations are not being met, they do not have a significant force enough to rally around and become a counter force in the dominant political structure. So they evolve their own different sorts of identity structures, which is what we're seeing here, which is what we are seeing in Germany, the rise of the right, which is what we are seeing even in Switzerland, in Amsterdam, in Holland, of course. We've seen things like that. Or in France, the left actually started taking up questions that the right wing was taking in terms of the rail and in terms of what should be the status of minorities. So we are looking at very fascinating kind of times, and I don't know where it is going to go. I hope there is some light at the end of the tunnel, but currently we are passing through a very dark tunnel. The camera to make a documentary costs less than $1 lakh. If you can't afford it, there are enough cameras within the middle class for you to be able to borrow it. The cost of a tape is less than the cost of a pizza or a cold coffee. There's nothing that prevents you from picking up the camera, buying a tape, and going out and shooting. Yeah, now, whether you want to travel business class, stay in a 5-star, or whether you're willing to travel second class and stay in a hotel that costs 500 is your decision. Today, if you want to make a documentary, there's nothing that prevents you from making it. All you need to ask yourself is 2 questions. Do you have anything interesting to say? Do you have an interesting way of saying it? If the answer is yes, pick up a camera. The tape costs less than a pizza. So if you sacrifice 5 pizzas, you can buy 5 tapes, gives you 5 hours of footage, gives you a fantastic half-an-hour film. This film was edited on my home computer, on a Pentium 4. Okay? I did all my mixing at home. My color correction was done at home. I did not go to any single studio. Everything happened at home, in my spare bedroom.
But that's just one small little, little pebble in the ocean. It means nothing. I think as filmmakers, our responsibility, especially in the mainstream, that what are we doing? Why are we letting these people get away with a rowdy rathor or a house full or a golmaal or a dabang or XYZ? What is happening to us as thinkers and screenwriters, as responsible screenwriters? So documentaries are very, very important eye-openers. I'm so glad that all of us sat down and watched it. I think that is the hope. That is the hope. That yes, a documentary like Find Solution, 2.5-hour documentary can be watched with intensity and with attention and with everything that you have got. I think on that point, let's say on that point of hope, let's thank Rakesh very much.
Thank you.